Next, let's start with an overview of the mixer itself, looking at all the various controls and what they can do for you before we take an in-depth look at some of them. Starting from the left-hand side of the console to the right at the top, the first thing you see is an iPad USB-A port. That's useful for just plugging in a cable to charge your iPad, because many of you use your iPads to play back music or sound effects during your show, and you'll use an 1/8" mini cable to plug into the output headphone port of your iPad. And that comes in here where it says aux in. This is the volume control. You can turn it up or down. The lights indicate the volume coming in. You can turn it on or off. You can cue it, meaning you can listen to it on headphones. You can select the channels, and you can see right beside how it changes. You can see the lights moving back and forth so that you can make adjustments to various parameters. When you have a signal coming in, you want it to be about the -20. You want to set this level so it's about the -20. It's got a good signal to noise ratio, and that'll have a good quality sound. There are certainly some times you need it to be softer. You can control it from your iPad or from here, and you can decide where you need to do that from. But if you have it running too low, the volume on your iPad is too low, it will not get you as good a sound and could be a little airy maybe. And so if you want a better quality sound, you'll want it to be hitting again up in this -20 area. Okay, so aux in, CD, there's a CD player in your rack that comes from. And some of us still have CDs to play from, so I know some of your shows, the sound effects will come on CDs. Then you have your touch screen. You can touch to move around on this and do different things. Okay, so as we go on across the top, an EQ library is labeled on this board, and that comes up and it will have various things in here as we look at microphones and things that you can plug in and use. Then there's a home button, so if you're someplace else and you're buried deep in different parameters, you've touched on things and you've gotten around in things and you want to get back to where you started, that's a home button. That takes you back to the front screen. Moving on across, now we've got another bank of buttons. User-defined keys, A, B, C, D, E, F. Those are very, very powerful. You can set up various things to trigger or be triggered by those, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Mute. You can mute the inputs, or you can mute sound effects from here. And that's a very powerful tool. That's very helpful as well. On over here to the right, these are audio meters. So when you have things that are going through those meters, you'll see things start to jump on these meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got a microphone in front of me now. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you see those jumping on the meters right there. If you have in the next section down, there's a headphone jack. Just a regular pair of headphones that came with your mixing console. Okay, you can plug those in here and you have individual level of sound going into the microphones. I would suggest whenever you put the microphones on, keep it down pretty low. Otherwise, you're liable to get blown out and be scared a little bit. And oftentimes, if you have the headphones sitting on the mixing desk or the cabinet beside you, you'll want this down also so you don't hear sound coming out of the headphones. These next two sections, effects 1, effects 2, those are sound effects as far as affecting how you affect the sound. It could be oftentimes in a school situation, you're probably talking about reverbs. Okay, that's the thing that's put on all professional recordings, And in a concert setting, you want a natural reverb in the hall. You want it to bounce around a little bit, and so it helps tie things together. When you're doing a musical and you're using microphones, if you don't have reverb, you'll still hear the sound. It'll be very clear, but it's not going to be tied together. It kind of gives a little tail to the sound and just, again, gives it that more professional idea. We'll talk through those a little bit later. Coming on down the board, we now have buttons that you'll use a lot. Input 1, Input 2, and Output. And this is going to change where you are on the console because there's only 16 faders on the console, and this will allow you to move through those 16 to get to the second bank of 16, which is 32, and then to the output section. And we'll show you that in just a minute. The next knob is called the touch and turn knob. And what this does, if I touch up here, so now that's highlighted, and where I touched, if I turn the knob, now it changes. A touch and turn knob. And so I can maneuver anything on the board. If I come down here and I turn the knob, then all of a sudden I'm controlling that parameter. You can also click on it here, and that does some other things for you. So touch and turn knob, very powerful. And then you have some channel defaults and copy and paste ideas that you can use with that button. And then you have, just like we had user-defined keys a moment ago, we also have user-defined knobs where we tell the mixer what we want those knobs to do. And you can see these are assigned, and there were things that were changing up and moving there.